Take a deep breath. Know that you are loved. Take a deep breath. Know that you are loved. Breathe. You've arrived at the Evolving Lover podcast. This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online. Now, here is your host, the funny, thoughtful, and loving Steve Burford. Enjoy.
Today we've got Elena Angel on from London, someone I've met before. We just haven't had a chance to get on a podcast, but now is the time. Elena is a teacher, speaker, mentor, and founder of the Ultimate Connection Coaching, and also a soulmate expert, and that's something we're going to dive in today. So how are you doing, Elena?
Hi, Steve. I'm very well. Thanks. Really exciting to connect with you after all this time. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's time to reconnect. So for those who are new to you, what would you describe as all the things you do, the soulmate expert stuff and the connection coaching? What is it that you do, and how did you get to that path in life?
It's been a lifelong journey, really. One of really discovering who I am, finding my authenticity, and then my self-expression. And the key that I found in my own journey was the soul. So I've developed a way of looking at ourselves from that perspective and healing and developing all the different areas of our lives. So this could be relationships, that's my specialism, relationships, life purpose, creativity, looking at our lifestyle, well-being, spirituality, our communities, and just really informing ourselves and our lives from this deeper aspect that can give us more nourishment and fulfillment that pretty much anything else than the outside world would offer us. Yeah, so my coaching is about that. People come to me for a variety of reasons. Okay, usually, like I said, it's relationships. People needing help with that. I have a background in Tantra and Taoist practice, and so I introduce some of those principles that help to create conscious relationships, so upgrade existing relationships, but also help to draw in better partners. A lot of people are struggling to find good partners, and you can see all the dating sites, and there's so much on dating, and at the same time so much isolation and loneliness and difficulty in connecting. So a big part of my work is about that. And I run Soulmate Connections events to help with that further, because I do believe there's great magic in physically meeting people. We rely a lot on technology, and here we are having this conversation, and it's great, but there's no substitute for the magic of actually being together in a group of people who are longing to connect from this deeper place, from the heart and the soul, and really see the light that each of us carry, and take it from there, really. So that's a big part of my work. Do you have a question for me?
Yeah, the leading on from that would be going into, well, what you said really was about the technology is kind of keeping us separate, and I think this is something that everyone must feel on some level, whether they're trying to find a new partner on Tinder or on I don't know, eHarmony is supposed to be the more soulmate connection. There's still something that is extremely, well, we're all looking for something more than just an online connection. So how do we start getting in touch with that deeper part of ourselves? Because surely that is the answer before we go looking for someone else. Yeah,
absolutely. It's funny you mentioned eHarmony, and Don't mean to give them bad press, but I have actually been on that side because I was fascinated by their system. And they have a very comprehensive questionnaire that people can go into and answer. And the emphasis is on compatibility and having shared values and ethics. That is very, very important. But I'm just amused at how it still doesn't work because the soul just doesn't work like that. It's not so logical, and it's not about ticking the right boxes. So yeah, going back to that place, let's define the soul, shall we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the soul, we might say, is an individuation of the divine. So if we are extensions of the divine of God, there is a level of individuation where we can identify as ourselves rather than the collective or the one, enormous entity that is God. So it's what gives us our identity. It's an aspect of the divine that we call ourselves. And on a higher level, to use that analogy, we have aspects, say from past lives and whatnot. So it's a collection of experiences and gifts that we have through our being in existence. And then there is a level of identity which is more personal. This is where the personality comes in. So I'm Elena, you're Steve, and I see you as the person who grew up, and had those experiences that you had, and I can relate to you on a personal level. But there is a soul aspect that's much greater than that, than I could ever know of you, and probably you don't know fully either. You're discovering it as you go along. The same is true for me, right? So I'm Elena, and I know what my parents were like, and where I grew up, and where I went to school, and all the people who came into my life, and all those experiences. But there is an aspect of me that is greater than even I know, and I'm in the process of constantly discovering more. It's so we're all mysteries, and this mystery is the whole point. So we're here to discover the mystery that is ourselves, and one of the best ways of doing so is in relationship. So as I connect with you, we start evoking qualities in each other, and we start seeing in each other what we might not be able to see in ourselves. And in psychological terms, that can lead to difficulties like projections and mirroring that is hurtful. A lot of the time that's what happens, and we blame the other person for our own stuff a lot of the time. We just can't see it. But there is a beauty in it as well, because I can see gifts in you that are perhaps easier for me to recognize in you than in myself. And together we can grow and help each other to find more of who we are and help each other to express it more fully. And that's how the relationships can become more liberating. It's another problem. We go into a relationship and we're afraid that as we get more intimate and more involved with someone, we lose ourselves and we have to compromise and we lose our freedom, right? But when you relate from the soul aspect, then the opposite is true. So this person is your partner to be yourself more than you would have been otherwise. And this is true of romantic relationships and closer partnerships, obviously, because we really get to know a person very, very well, and we perhaps share a commitment to growth together and to supporting each other in this way. But I see this spreading in bigger groups of people. So we have friends that relate with us in that way. We have work associates that work with us in this way. And I see businesses for me that are very soul-centered. So the good thing about it is it's spreading in groups of people and communities in different projects that are going on. And we're all helping each other and helping the greater good as well. Yeah, so that's the big difference when you start from the soul.
Do you have a specific, I know you covered probably it within that, but do you have a more concise definition of what a soulmate connection or partnership is?
So soul partnership is one that is led by the soul. It used to be that, I met somebody and I might see them as a function. Okay, so meet someone and I know they have a job title, for example, and they can help me with something, and I have a transaction with them. So you can help me find a home, great, or you can help me have sex, great. And I'll give you some sex back, or I'll give you some money back, or I'll give you something back. And a lot of our relationships used to be transactional, based on exchange. And the focus was in what can I get for myself, and the value was how valuable is this for me. And how valuable is this for you? And can we agree on a value for the exchange? That's been dominating our relationships for a long time. And on some level, it works. But now we're upgrading. We're upgrading collectively. Humanity's upgrading. And now we're moving away from this transactional model into a model of communion and sharing. So my value is in being myself. Therefore, there's no number attached to that. My job is to express my gifts and to fulfill the soul purpose. So the soul aspect, that divine aspect in myself, is here to do something which expresses in different ways. So as I commit to that, that is the value that I experience in myself and the value I bring to the world. And when everybody does that, it's a case of sharing those resources and supporting each other to give more of what we already have within.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much more about a collaboration, communion, sharing, rather than exchange, value-based transactions.
And from my experience, soulmates can also be very messy. What would you say about the ones that become messy, where a close, intimate partnership becomes where you're triggering each other's wounds to be healed?
Yeah.
Is this a common occurrence?
Yes, of course. I mean, that is true of everything, really. Life gives us opportunities to heal, to become better integrated and more whole. And, the ones that are more intimate and we're in love, they are the most potent, of course, because we invest more of ourselves and it matters more. And potentially it can be hurtful, yeah. My solution to that is to focus on the learning. So to see all the hurts, the projections, and so on as an opportunity to find a deeper truth and to find a learning. I'll give you an example. For example, I was in a relationship a long time ago, and I realized at some point that I was not in the relationship because of love, because love was there, obviously, but that was not the reason I was in the relationship. The reason was to grow. And I would ask myself, am I growing in this relationship? How can I grow more out of this relationship? And I chose to look at all conflicts or differences or any difficulty as yet another opportunity for me to learn and to grow. So that was my focus, and I didn't take it so personally. I didn't try to work out if this relationship is, wrong, or this partner is wrong. It wasn't about right or wrong. It was about learning and growth. And each relationship has, its gifts. So the question I would ask is, what is the learning in this? How can I grow more out of this? And
sorry to interrupt.
As long as there's love in the equation, which there should be, honestly. Mm-hmm. Really, there always is. Hopefully you'll be feeling it. The love provides the container to do this work. So there's no way around those things. It's a healing of the personality. It's a healing of all the past wounding, and you might as well do it with your soulmate than with someone else.
Yeah, and just speaking on that a little bit further, there's some part of our culture that is still kind of like thinking about this Disney movie aspect, and even linking the whole soulmate thing to that and living happily forever after. What would you say about that in terms of the length of a time of a relationship, or perhaps it's a complete disaster at the end of a relationship? Does that mean it was less of a soulmate relationship, or is that because, do we think like that because of this Disney movie Happily Ever After?
Yeah, right. Okay, sure. So soulmate relationship is not some romantic, fluffy, pink, happy ever after scenario. It can be amazingly loving and fulfilling, and very beautiful and easy, but also it can be very challenging. Um, in my experience, soulmate relationships are those that offer the most opportunities for growth and for self-actualization. So whatever it is in me that wants to express, they help me the most. And if I have a big block or wounding around that, then obviously they're going to challenge me the most as well. They're not designed to last forever necessarily, but they do fulfill the purpose. It's like two of us getting together and having a purpose, a reason for being in that relationship that serves our own healing and our own growth. And as long as we commit to that, we will receive the blessings of that. And it's often the case that a relationship like this can be quite intense, and then it runs its course, and it wasn't a mistake. This person was not less of a soulmate. Probably they loved us even more for challenging us more and helping us to grow faster and heal deeper. But it's perfectly fine, to move on to a new partnership as we evolve, or a number of partnerships. I mean, this doesn't have to be very exclusive.
This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online.
You say about it not perhaps lasting forever. Perhaps it does last forever on a soul level, but on a physical embodiment level, that we are coming into this experience to learn what we need to learn to be as self-actualized as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And having said that, it is useful to have relationship tools. I mean, this soul perspective is great to have in mind and to keep close to the heart. But we need to learn things like how to communicate. We often don't know basic things around communication, or how to express mutual needs, or how to set boundaries. And this is part of the spiritual journey. It's also largely a part of the psychological journey, and that has to be honored as well. Ultimately, there is an integration going on between the soul perspective, which is perfect and eternal and all those things, and of course we're connected forever on a soul level, and then we have the personality level, which still experiences strife and separation and the pain and the hurt, and this is now being healed and integrated, so we can have more fluid relationships, less hurtful relationships, more loving and creative ones.
Yeah, and it's that friction between the both that grinds us into the diamond that we're trying to be in this embodiment, in this human experience.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's only that friction that anything is grown in anywhere, in nature or in wherever you look. If you're looking at a great athlete, he's always going to be charged by his competitors, or a business person will be motivated by his rivals as well. So this soul aspect combined with this imperfectly perfect human is why one of the reasons, if not the main reason, depending on your beliefs and your path in life so far, is perhaps the reason why we are here right now having this conversation.
Yeah, totally. This is what it's all about. This wholeness, this completion is a completion of the self, and the more we bring our hearts together, and the more we heal those gaps in our psyche, the better our relationships, the better our world.
So talking on perhaps some practical tools that people can use when they are in just in a relating situation, perhaps meeting someone new to connect on a soul level, if they're not going to perhaps one of your workshops, how can we connect more on that soul level?
I would say the first thing is to drop into the heart, to leave the thoughts and the assessments, the judgments aside for a while, and turn our energy and inwards, dropping into the heart. So this is a place of connection, where I'm not so busy assessing or judging someone, or thinking about what I want, or imagining what it may be or how it may not be, and just really feeling myself, and allowing myself to have a sense of another person from the heart, without any assumptions, without any expectations. That would be the beginning. In Tantra, as you know, we have practices like eye gazing, where you would be quiet for quite some time and just gaze into each other's eyes, breathing together for a while. Not many words are necessary to make those connections, but as we start to drop into the body and the heart and just are with someone with no agenda other than just to be there, the magic happens, and we start to experience feelings, and we start to have a sense of who we are, who this person is. It moves beyond our ego. So that's the beginning. Just breathe more, talk less, drop into the heart, and just feel.
And when it comes to perhaps you start feeling that connection and you develop the conversation is good between you both, and does it become a harder decision when it comes to being sexual with someone, if you're looking for that soul connection, because you don't want to give your energy to someone who's the wrong person, and you're more focused on having that soul partnership? Do you find that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Starting from the conversation, a lot of people are not so intimate with the conversation, so a lot of time is spent being clever, or trying to make a good impression, or worrying that we don't make a good impression, or what impression do we make. So there's a lot of worry, and the conversation tends to separate us more than it connects us. So when it comes to conversation, what I encourage people to do is to speak more about the things that really enliven us and that really matter to us. So instead of just going through what happened during the day, or saying some clever things, or trying to be funny, if humor comes, great, but what is the thing that really enlivens you? What are you passionate about? What are you hoping for? Or what has really saddened you today? Or what has really touched you in a deep way today? It's best to have conversations about things that really move us, rather than other stuff that happens. And then that gives us both, if I'm speaking with someone, it gives us both the opportunity to feel that soul aspect, to feel what that person is really about, their essence, and then we can start to feel if there's synergy between us. Because chemistry you can have with some people, maybe not with others. But the most important part as you're developing a soulmate connection is about, what makes me tick, what am I passionate about, what is my deepest feeling of myself, and how does that fare in relationship with this person. And that's where we start to find, what is the synergy, what gifts have we got for each other. And maybe if there's chemistry as well, fantastic. You maybe want to take it further. And if there isn't much chemistry there, you might choose a different kind of relationship with this person, maybe not a sexual one, but you could find some synergies in other areas. Or maybe you will find, okay, they're on a very different path to my own, and just wish them well and move on.
Yeah, so is there a matter of slowing things down? Because we live in this fast-paced culture that everything within a soul-based path, specifically to do with intimate relationships, you recommend just slowing things down?
Yeah, slowing things down and going for what really matters. We're afraid to disclose a lot about ourselves, but the more we disclose, then the faster this process becomes and the more meaningful as well. In my Soulmate Connections, I encourage people to speak about their dreams in a completely uncensored way. So what would someone really love to do? Because that's what the soul desires to express, right? My dream about myself and my life, this is who I really am. This is who I long to become as well, to actualize. And people find that they receive great encouragement when they do that. And also they find these amazing synchronicities where other people may have some important information for them or have some experience to contribute that's relevant to that. And now we feel like we're much, much closer. We really understand each other. We now have become partners in that journey. And like I said before, I mean, to turn this into a romantic relationship, a sexual relationship, you'd also want the chemistry. And the chemistry is something different. The chemistry really comes from, the physical aspect and primarily, right? Mm-hmm. So we won't be sexually as interested in everyone, maybe, if we really pay attention. Again, here, there's been a bit of a distortion in that, for example, it's been very common for men to imagine that they can have sex with lots of women or as many women as they would like, and that would be okay. And then they are horrified when they have some problems or they can't function sometimes, and they worry there's something wrong with them. And I'm often the one to tell them that no, okay, you can't expect to be sexually compatible with absolutely everybody. There will be some people you're not so sexually attuned to, and this is not a problem. So it takes a little bit of self-awareness to know when that chemistry kicks in, and also for us to know what we need to feel it. So are we visual? Are we more kinesthetic? Are we more tonal? What would we need to feel if there's chemistry? And it's one of those very strange and mysterious things that we can't change. So either it's there or it's not. It's very hard to put in if it's not there. In fact, I haven't found a way of doing that in all my years of working with people. Chemistry is not something that we can manipulate. So I would encourage people to take some time and to feel into that aspect as well if they want to have a really great sex life also. And perhaps combine all of those elements to have, the soul connection, to have a similar outlook on life, similar values, similar desires. There are a lot of components, to have a really fabulous relationship. But also to understand, in my view, it doesn't have to be the one person that ticks absolutely every single box. I could see this as more of a finding different people to fulfill different aspects, and with the ones that were sexual, maybe emotional and soul partnership would be important, but maybe life purpose or career would be secondary. But everybody has to make their own choices.
For those who are looking for these type of relationships, partnerships, more soul connected, whether they're partnered or not, I guess, but in terms of ones who are looking for that partner, what would you recommend in terms of communicating when there is an attraction? Is it better to just put that out there and say, yes, I feel attracted to you, but I still don't know where this is going to go. Let's feel it out. What is the best thing to do you think, when it comes to declaring attraction?
I think it's a good idea to do just that, to be honest and transparent. It makes everything much easier just to say how you feel, and if you're feeling attraction, then great, say it, show it, and if you're not, then make that clear as well. I'm all for transparency as much as possible. Because that takes all the guessing out of the picture and all the misunderstandings and the miscommunications that can arise. It's perhaps difficult. We're maybe not used to being very open about exactly how we feel. But I think it's useful to let our partner know, or potential partner know, where we're at, and simplifies everything.
Yeah, it takes less of the games out and the chase me games that we can play, like couple of 10-year-olds running around a playground.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I can't stand those games, and I don't know if anybody really knows the code, when to text and how many days later and which texts to ignore and which to reply to, and there's all this texting going on, the messaging, and people don't really communicate, and they're playing these games, and they get lost in the game ultimately, forgetting that we're all humans with hearts and feelings and deep soul yearnings to connect and to realize ourselves. And let's maybe play fewer games and do the thing we're here to do.
Yeah, and that can only really be done through this more authentic communication of, admitting when there is some attraction and then not being attached to whatever that turns out to be. Perhaps that attraction turns into an amazing... I've had many female friends that I've been attracted to turn into, like, some of my best friends. They didn't go down the sexual road, but I would still consider them soulmates or soul sisters or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly.
But so that admitting and then not being attached to what it looks like, because that attraction, and I guess this is turning into a question, is when you do feel that soul attraction, it's not always clear of what that is going to look like, is it? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes you have to feel your way through it, and sometimes it's not obvious from the start, why you feel so drawn to a person. Quite often we interpret an attraction as a sexual attraction, but it turns out to be something quite different. We end up doing something together or sharing about an important experience that only this person can help us with, later on. It's important to trust those impulses, to trust our intuition, our gut instinct, and if we feel drawn to a person, just go for it. If we feel sexually attracted, if that's the impression we get, that's all right too. And we can allow the connection to unfold and show us what it's for. Like you said, it can turn out to be something different or sometimes very unconventional. But that's okay. The soul is not a conventional entity. And we are not conventional.
Yeah, and then there's the whole levels of intimacy that you can have with someone. I mean, we can talk about that if you want. Is what are the options that we are sometimes leaving off the table because of the culture we've lived in terms of intimacy? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at ourselves as energy beings fundamentally, we can have all kinds of interactions with all kinds of people, and let me mention this. A few years ago, I co-authored an article on tantric orgasm, explaining how an ecstatic experience or a highly intense, pleasurable, or sensual experience just defies what we label sex. So sexual, sensual encounter could be immensely spiritual, might not involve any nudity or genital touch, for example, but it would still feel sexual because the sexual energy is our creative force, is a life force. And we can experience that in many, many ways that far exceed any example we've seen, and it's usually porn. People get their education from, unfortunately. So you never really see those expanded experiences that are unlike porn. They can be amazing sensual connection or sexual connection with someone that never looks like sex in a conventional way. And this is where now we're starting to open up to this knowing. Okay, so it's something that's been known for many, many, many years, and now we're starting to relearn all the possibilities and to explore some more. So the less we try to define and label things, the better. And then our truthfulness, our presence will lead us to the experiences that we need to grow and to be the blissful beings that we can be.
Yeah, and I was kind of alluding to the question a little bit in terms of as well the kind of not everything. Well, as you were saying, really, not everything has to be sexual. We could just have a soulmate partnership where I know of someone who just meets and like has a hugging party with someone. Like they'll just hold each other, or things like that, where there is this, levels of physical touch between someone of the opposite sex, where they potentially are attracted to them, but it doesn't have to be, that full-blown sex, but you still may hold hands when you go to the park, or you might hug or whatever. Are we missing out on so much of that because of the culture, do you think?
Yes. Our tendency is to want to have clear distinctions about things based on previous norms. What we've been conditioned to think is good or normal or expected of us. But I would also go further and say you could have an amazing, energetic sexual experience with someone that maybe you've never met, that you really connect with, and we just breathe together, right? It happens a lot in tantric workshops where you just sit with someone and just stay very present, and you breathe together, and then bliss emanates. And does this not mean that you have to marry this person, or does this mean that you have to live together? And no, not necessarily. But that experience unlocks something in you. Now, to have a successful relationship, like I said before, there are different elements that each of us will want to have in place, and we all have our priorities in life. Some people want a family. Some people want to have a successful career. Some people are drawn by spiritual pursuits. So whatever we're really committed to, whatever personal intimate relationship we have, would need to work well with that. But that doesn't mean that we cannot have connections and expanded experiences with more people in ways that look quite strange, just unexpected. And for this to happen, all that's required is a certain availability. And thankfully now there are those containers, like you said, there are the cuddle parties, and you can go to workshops like that, and you can meet those people. More communities are forming. Soulmate Connections is one of them. Or I run a women's circle, for example, where women gather and connect very deeply and can be very close with each other. And this wouldn't have happened if we just stuck to, we just are polite and that's it. We don't connect with women in that way. So things are changing. We're all learning to connect more deeply from a less personal perspective, more impersonally, more lovingly, with greater availability of ourselves, of our energy, and experience good things. So it's much more trust building. As we build more trust in ourselves and our own benevolence, the benevolence of other people, then more intimacy emerges amongst greater groups of people and greater communities. And relationships are redefined at this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a grand redefinition to allow us to have that freedom of experience in all relationships, especially maybe if we're married or in a long-term partnership, that they would perhaps allow us to go on these soul journeys with other people and maybe have some breathing experience with someone, to hold someone, or these kind of things. They are definitely redefining of what a relationship is and what it can be, and redefining what truth and honesty is. And it's certainly these conversations like this that we're having now are the ones we need to have more of as we go forward in this redefinition. And do you have any final thoughts to add as we wrap up? We've touched on many different subjects. We could speak for hours, I think, but
totally. This I'm just gonna say I'm super hopeful. I'm really hopeful, and I would encourage everybody to just go out more and meet people organically, following our dreams and letting those carry us, trusting that as we're all growing, individually and collectively, those loving partnerships will become stronger and more accessible to us all. So I'm really hopeful that everybody's going to have a little love in their life, and great sex and great connections and amazing creativity. Especially today, it's the winter solstice, and we've got the darker night, and so it only gets better from here, right?
Onwards to the light.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you, Elena.
Thank you, Steve.
Take a moment to honor you and your work and what you're bringing to the world. Thank you so much. And where can people find out more about your work?
Thank you, Steve. I'm on elenaangel.com, ELENA angel.com. You'll find details of my coaching, the various events that I run, and a few other bits and pieces. I write quite a lot. There's a blog that has a lot of interesting pieces for people on these topics, and free resources. People can download articles, videos, recordings. Hopefully will educate and inspire. And thank you to Steve for all that you've been doing. It's just amazing to see how far you've grown, and in this 3 years since we first met, and it's onwards and upwards.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elena. I really recommend anyone in London to check out her workshops, and if you're elsewhere in the world, do check out her website at elenaangel.com. So thank you today, Elena, and
thank you.
Maybe we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, pleasure. Bye for now, Steve.
This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online.